When you start doing evil, it's like a slippery slope.
We are treating this case as a homicide, and the investigation is underway.
Cunanan tonight is suspected in 4 murders committed in Minnesota, Illinois, and New Jersey.
Nobody's safe in this, and that's the point we have to get across.
He took a hammer to a guy's head, and then he shot the next guy, stole their vehicle, and he came to Chicago, and then tied Miglin's feet and slit his throat with a saw. I mean, that's bizarre.
This was Chicago's most exclusive neighborhood and one of Chicago's most prominent businessmen who was killed in a horrific way.
His throat was slashed, his head covered with a plastic bag, and his body wrapped like a mummy with masking tape.
It was a very unusual killing, even by Chicago standards.
We had a sex-crazed maniac out there killing people.
The 50-year-old Versace was shot twice in the back of the head as he returned from breakfast to his South Miami Beach mansion.
Elton John, who said he loved Versace's flamboyant clothing, was comforted by Diana and a friend when he broke down during the service.
No one really, I think, could believe it actually happened. He's just, you know, he's a very special person.
Yeah, I mean, he just went up to Versace and shot him in the back of the head. I mean, that's just ruthless.
He could have targeted Versace as a symbolic target. This man represented a great deal of success and fortune and all the things that Cunanan seemed to be enamored with.
Those 2 guys in Minneapolis, that was okay, but he was looking to be someone who had left a legacy. And between Miglin and Johnny Versace, they always talk about Andrew Cunanan.
Everywhere that Andrew Cunanan has gone in the last week, it seems like a body turns up.
Everybody's at risk. Everybody's got to help us put this guy in jail.
And experts say it's nearly impossible to predict what he'll do next.
There's no way of knowing where he's going to be traveling, who he's going to be killing, or how.
This is a person who clearly was adept at not only murder, but at getting away with murder. First and foremost, Andrew Cunanan was a spree killer. That's how he will be remembered in history. What got Andrew Cunanan to the point of being a spree killer is that he was a narcissist. From day one on the social radar in Southern California, he thought he was somebody. He wanted other people to know that he was somebody. And he put himself in situations in Southern California and around the world, primarily in gay social settings, where he tried to be somebody, and he met people along the way who were much richer than him. The victim, Jeffrey Trail, a friend from San Diego. He'd moved to Minneapolis and was lured to this apartment by Cunanan, who was staying here with a former male lover. Cunanan went there in the first place. He told friends in Southern California before he left because of some unfinished business, which in hindsight would seem to be settling a score or 2. Detectives found Cunanan's footprints on the apartment floor, handcuffs that satisfied Cunanan's appetite for rough sex, this claw hammer used to kill Trail. Trail was mostly beaten to death, but then rolled up in a carpet and found in the other guy, Madsen's apartment, of all places. So there were some weird questions for the authorities in Minnesota to start with about one body being in the apartment of another guy. Police say he rolled the body into a rug and that he and Madsen lived with it for 2 days, stuffing bloody rags into this plastic bag, an indication that Cunanan was trying to mop up the scene. 6 days later, he is missing and then turns up shot to death on this lakeshore.
Minneapolis architect David Madsen, who was also murdered, police believe, at the hands of Andrew Cunanan.
He couldn't stop it. He just could not control it. Once he started with the first one, since he'd been practicing this for many years, it just gave him so much joy. And I mean, it's sort of like an animal that just killed the prey. You know, he's, oh my gosh, now I can have a big meal.
He steals a car from one of the victims in Minnesota and drives to Chicago.
He appeared in front of us facing sideways, not facing us, and asked, "Where's the Gold Coast?" And he was referring to a booklet or
guidebook. And I said, well, what do you mean? This is all the Gold Coast. Are you looking for the mansions or the fancy houses? And he said, yeah, the Gold Coast.
This is where a few days later he ends up taking up brief residence in the home of Lee Miglin and murdering him.
I think that, you know, walking around here and everything around here should be safe. That's why you pay the money to live here.
It was clearly the high-end section of Chicago. This is where the beautiful people and the rich and famous lived, especially on the Gold Coast. And so for Cunanan to show up here and ask directions to, quote, the Gold Coast, might have seemed out of place, except that he was used to running in those circles. Don't forget, he had a knack for ingratiating himself to primarily rich men.
We are treating this case as a homicide, and the investigation is underway.
Look at the damage Cunanan did to Mr. Miglin. Wrapping his head in tape. Left the nostrils open. I want you to breathe. I want you to feel what I'm doing to you. And he tortured him. I mean, looking at he wrapped his feet in an electrical cord, but he wrapped them 8 times. That's like wrapping a present. We call it that ritual. He staged this whole thing. And I'm sure what he did was some of the early stab wounds were just to get his reaction. I'm pissed, and I'm going to take it out on you. And I'm going to show you what I can do. And he'll start, you know, a couple little stab wounds and stuff like that. He couldn't scream, but he was still alive. That's why he left the nostrils open so you can breathe.
Miglin had been savaged by Cunanan. Even though there was no indication of any sexual violation, he was beaten, some would say tortured. There were some puncture wounds, and then his face was wrapped like a mummy with eye and nose holes. And that's how he was found, under that car.
What struck me is the rage that was used by Cunanan in killing Mr. Miglin.
And then Cunanan made himself right at home after killing Miglin. The body probably still in the house.
30 bruises or contusions of the face. That's just beating someone. I mean, talk about anger. No wonder he spent the night there. He was too tired. He couldn't go anywhere. I mean, he really did. He totally exhausted himself. At the end, he uses the bags of cement. He broke every single rib from Mr. Miglin. Every single rib was broken.
There is said to be evidence the killer spent the night in the couple's 3-story Gold Coast home.
Cunanan, it would seem, makes himself at home. It appeared to be the rich look in Lee Miglin circles at the time. It was kind of classic late 80s, early 90s decor, at least on the Gold Coast of Chicago. Very expensive, the result of a very lucrative business that he and his wife were in.
He was married to cosmetic mogul Marilyn Miglin.
His wife owns a highly successful Oak Street cosmetics and beauty company.
Lee Miglin's wife might well have been more famous than he was, at least to the public. She owned a very prominent cosmetic company, Marilyn Miglin. She was known on television around the world because she was on the Home Shopping Network. Marilyn Miglin was out of town for the weekend and doesn't come home until Sunday. It was almost as if Cunanan had checked into a 5-star hotel. He sleeps in his bed. He makes a meal in the kitchen for himself. Most notably a ham sandwich that he carved, some of it still left behind. He took a bubble bath, he slept in Miglin's bed, and then left all of it out for the maid to clean up. At some point, we do know that he somehow gets Miglin's body down to the garage and kind of maneuvers it underneath the car in the garage. And that's where he leaves it. Not a great hiding place. It wasn't really well concealed. They were dealing with a psycho. I mean, that's all that they could figure here, is that this was like a scene out of a movie, and the guy who was behind it is also on the run. Cunanan has a significant head start on law enforcement.
there is so much connections. There's so much purpose that this Cunanan had. He represented something that Cunanan took as being an object of my intense anger, because you can just see it just from what he did to the body.
He was a great entrepreneur of Chicago and a very charitable man and a family. I mean, it's a very, very sad time to see what has taken place.
The circumstances surrounding his death immediately caught the attention not only of Chicago police, but this became what's known in Chicago as a heater case. All the Chicago police pulled out all stops. The mayor's office was intent on seeing a quick solution to this. They wanted the person responsible for this arrested because there was a lot of heat on the police department to solve it.
Biggest heater case that I can remember in a long, long time. I mean, when you see the mayor's wife sends flowers, the governor's wife is at the funeral, they got a call from the cardinal's office. That's, you know, we have heater cases, and then there's red hot mamas, and this was a red hot mama.
So this car that he had stolen in Minnesota and driven to Chicago is parked illegally, getting parking tickets. People are passing it day and night, and the police presumably have also seen it a number of times. And finally, it dawns on some smart officer that maybe this should be checked out. And so that's when they realized that not only was this the killer's car, but it was owned by one of the victims in Minnesota.
He wanted to make sure he got credit. He leaves the Jeep right around the corner. He leaves the Jeep and he takes Miglin's car. Why? Because you're going to follow him. And he's hoping you stupid coppers aren't that so stupid that you will be able to follow me. He wants credit for these. He wants credit. He gets the two in Minneapolis. He gets Miglin.
At that time in law enforcement history, it was much easier to disappear than it is today. And this kid had a way of blending in. He wore wigs, he changed his appearance, he dyed his hair color, he dressed down, he dressed up, he knew his way through a lot of different social and economic circles. And so it wasn't as if he stood out in any one place that he went.
Cunanan's ability to change his looks and adapt to his surroundings make things more difficult.
He was a prolific liar, and he would change his appearance. And these people are very bright, and they're very deceptive. They don't want to be found. They love living in this fantasy world where they can act out all these kinky things and these violent fantasies, and they want to continue to do that because it's rewarding.